Good morning. Thank you guys for going to bed early and getting here on time. So I'm going to talk about the cache server a little bit. My name is Stephen Palmer. I'm the development lead for Unity Austin, part of the build pipeline team. So first, a little bit of background on asset database stuff. The asset database is the thing in Unity that keeps track of all of your assets, and it also manages the imported or runtime versions of all the assets. A lot of you are familiar with this. I just wanted to go through it a little bit in case you weren't. So an asset in Unity is identified by a GUID and a hash. A GUID is just a stable identifier for the asset. So all of your assets, before they're imported, you add something to a project, it gets assigned a GUID. The hash is basically all of the inputs to the asset from the import pipeline. So it's a hash of all the inputs. And it's just a unique identifier for the current version, the current library representation of the asset. So in my terminology, I will say a GUID plus a hash equals a version of an asset, if that makes sense. So your library folder that's in your project, it stores only the latest version, the GUID and the hash, of any asset. So for instance, if you switch platforms, it has to re-import because the inputs have changed, and there's a new hash, therefore it has to re-import. Of course, this process of switching platforms, the most common thing, or re-importing, or if you open a brand new project that you haven't used before, this process of importing assets can be quite slow. So the cache server was introduced to basically store versions. This is basically just a repository of versions. So now the asset import pipeline can ask the cache server if it has a version before it tries to do an import. If it has a version, it simply copies the file from the cache server and puts it in place. So this speeds things up quite a bit. So to illustrate a little bit, you have assets in your project. The asset database assigns a GUID for each of the assets, calculates a hash. It then asks the cache server, is there a cache version of this? If so, for instance, the first one, GUID1 plus hash1, exists on the cache server, so that's going to be downloaded. If not, like GUID3 plus hash3, that version is not on the cache server, it's going to go through the asset import pipeline. And another thing about that is it goes through asset post-processing. So if you run a post-process on your assets, it's important to note that that only happens if it actually imports. If it's cached, it's just added to the library. So if you do anything in your asset import or asset post-processors that is, if it introduces dependencies that Unity doesn't know about, this can cause some issues with caching. So it's something you have to be careful about when you're using the cache server. Couple of caveats with the cache server. So it's not the complete magic bullet. There's still a couple of steps that are not actually done, or not used, the cache server isn't used for. So you still have to go through script compilation. That kind of has its own caching mechanism. There's the process of calculating the asset hash is usually on smaller projects you don't notice this, but on big projects it really starts to show up. So just bear that in mind. There's still, basically, when you start a new project, Unity has to figure out what it needs to ask the cache server for, and that hashing process can take some time on very large projects. And then finally, it's important to note, right now, it's disabled for shaders. So shader imports are not cached. So a little bit of background on the cache server, a little history. So this was introduced in Unity 3.5. It really didn't go through much change for the next several versions and several years. A little bit of complexity was added, but it was mostly unchanged. But toward the end of the 2017 release cycle, particularly as project complexity grew, some bugs started to surface, and performance. We got a lot of reports that there were some performance problems on large teams. So we put some effort into refreshing it, and we released. We basically did some very targeted bug fixes. We did some performance improvements and released the cache server as open source on GitHub. The cache server runs as a Node.js app. So now it's on GitHub. It's also on NPM, so it can be installed as an NPM module. And then between then and I'd say February or so, we did a complete rewrite of the cache server to really focus on the large team scenario, so that it was much more performant under stress. And then also that refactor allowed us to add some cool new features and to continue to be able to build on it into the future. So who should use a cache server? So I'd say everyone should use a cache server if at all possible. There are a few cases where some people may have some trouble, but by and large, everyone should be using this. If you're a solo developer, if you're working on your own, you get the benefits of fast platform switching, primarily. We're introducing project templates you may have seen into Unity. These project templates come with a lot of assets, so the cache server will help you in this scenario as well with these project templates and packages. So package assets or packages that you install in your game or in your project, those are imported just like every other asset, so all those assets will benefit from using the cache server. It's very easy to set up. Go to Unity, Preferences, Cache Server, Local. That's all you got to do. It'll start up in the background. You can adjust some options there. Simple as that. For developers on teams, on local networks, and even remote networks, and I'll get to that in a minute, you also get the same benefits. And in this scenario, you'll actually take the GitHub version, install it on a dedicated server. So you get the same benefits, fast platform switching, faster startup, using the templates. But now you're kind of distributing this import process across all your team members. So you're benefiting from everyone's work on the project. Then, of course, it's a service, so we get very detailed activity logging. There are some tools now for actually taking a project you've already imported and pushing that to a cache server. So if you're starting a new project or you're starting fresh with a new cache server, you can take your existing project and quickly get it up to speed so everyone can benefit right away. Another feature we've added is site mirroring. So if you have people in two different locations, you can actually share the transactions across the network. So basically all transactions that come into the cache server can be pushed to another cache server. It's great for remote workers, so they'll be able to take advantage of like a team that's working in an office. They can still use their own kind of local cache server by having the transactions mirrored. The new cache server is also very modular, and so it implements two different kind of flavors of caching. One is kind of the traditional file system-based caching, like the existing cache server does. But we also added a module that caches everything entirely in RAM. So if you have a very large server system with a lot of RAM and you want maximum download performance, you can use the RAM cache. Something else this is pretty new. You may have heard us talking about addressables and the new scriptable build pipeline. We're not going into a lot of detail on that, on the scriptable build pipeline right at this Unite, but it's basically a new build pipeline for content for asset bundles, and it has a caching system that can be connected to the cache server. So this is nice. So now not only is your asset import pipeline benefiting from caching, your content build pipeline can also benefit from caching. So I want to talk a little bit about a feature that's coming up in the next release. It's called high reliability mode. So one of the things about the cache server protocol is it's very basic, it's very simple. It accepts transactions from Unity, and it trusts that what's coming from Unity is correct. If Unity creates a version or sends a version to the cache server, it can actually do that more than once if it's possible. Usually that doesn't happen because if it exists it will download, but there's nothing stopping like transactions from being duplicated, and it doesn't actually care if the data changes. So generally that's fine. In most environments that's okay, but in some cases, particularly on very large teams, it's important to be confident that transactions only happen one time, and that the data that is on the cache server is correct and stable. So we're introducing this high reliability mode that prevents these accidentally changing existing versions. And it can detect if an import process was unstable. And the way it does this is it actually requires multiple transactions for the same thing to match completely. Binary, it needs to be like binary identical. So the transaction has to be the same and all the contents of the transaction have to be the same. So for instance, you would have to have two people working on the same project would have to import independently, run the import process and submit a transaction. If both of those transactions were the same, it would then say, okay, this is a stable transaction, therefore we can serve this. And you can configure the threshold for this reliability. So you could require 2 people or 3 or 4, it depends on your scenario. And then finally, if an instability is detected, it's logged, but we also save the artifacts. So you can actually go back and inspect and compare and see like why are these 2 files different. So this is cool for really uncovering any unstable asset importers that maybe you just can't notice usually. Maybe there's a subtle difference in the import pipeline. So you could use high reliability mode as kind of just a debug tool. You could turn it on for a little bit, log the instabilities, and then turn it back off if you want to have the highest performance. So the roadmap for the cache server. So right now on GitHub, it's version 6. It has the features I talked about earlier, and version 6.1, which is pretty much done. There's a couple of little things to do, but it'll be out in the next couple of weeks. We're adding high reliability mode, and also for those of you that have build farms and you're very sensitive about what data is on the cache server, you want to make sure that only data from, say, your build farm ends up in the cache server. We're introducing an IP whitelisting feature to basically put the cache server in read-only mode. And this is great. This was a contribution from a user on GitHub. So it's open source, so if you guys can also contribute. And then kind of the next thing we're going to do is implement a namespacing feature. So one of the things that's common is to run multiple cache servers. So for instance, if you work on multiple projects that span different versions of Unity, you might like to have independent cache servers or cache databases. Right now you have to run multiple cache servers to do that. So we're kind of going to introduce some namespacing so that we can kind of automatically segment the cache based on Unity version, but also some more arbitrary data. For instance, the build pipeline, you may want to separate that data from your asset import pipeline. So we'll have like an application ID, so we can split the cache based on that as well. So just little quality of life things like this, mainly focused around large teams and more enterprise development. And then beyond that, sometime next year, Unity is going to introduce a new asset database. I can't go into a lot of detail about that right now. But along with this new asset database comes a kind of an integrated cache server because it's a significantly different architecture. Basically, the new asset database will be on-demand importing, so it won't require all of your assets to be imported at startup. And the other big thing about it is it's much more robust with dependencies. So dependency calculations and declarations are very robust. So anyway, for all those reasons, there's a new cache server that will come along with that. And this kind of GitHub version, this Node version, will maintain that as long as you guys are using, 2018 or the versions prior to the versions prior to when the Asset Database v2 is introduced, and then that'll eventually be deprecated, and we'll all be on the new cache server. But that's down the road. That's another year or so. So we've got a long time to support the current cache server. And our goal is to make sure that it performs well. So if you have any issues with it, please, in GitHub, we're using the issue tracker on GitHub to track bugs and feature requests. So I encourage you to participate in that if you can. So that's all I got to say about the cache server. I wanted to leave lots of time for questions. This is the URL for getting the latest version and for installing it on NPM. So if you guys have any questions, I'm happy to answer them now. Thank you. Yep.
Okay, hello.
Hi.
Just one question. If you are using multiple cache servers,
Yes.
can you add some option in Unity to select which cache server it should use?
Good point. Yes, you can in 2018.1, I believe. There's a new command line option for starting up Unity to connect to a specific cache server. That's what we have right now. We are looking at ways to, we're looking at improving that by actually having some options in the project itself to configure that. But right now, you can start up Unity and connect to a specific cache server.
Yeah, but you can't, if you're using the Unity hub, you can't put the command line parameters. So
What's that?
If you are using the hub, then you can't choose the command line parameters for that. So.
Oh, if you're using the hub.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. That was a quick fix for, that was the simplest thing we could do, so we did that. And actually, what we're actually thinking about is moving the cache server config to the hub itself. So the hub will have all those options. That wasn't far enough along to really get into depth on that, but that's what we're talking about right now.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Any more questions? Don't be shy.
So we've had problems in the past with people working on different branches, and they bump the import pipeline version number at the same time, and that produces different results, but the same hash in the cache server. So the high reliability mode will make that better, but there's still potential for lots of people using different branches to produce different data,
right.
And only one will get accepted in the cache server.
Yep.
Is that something that we can work around?
That's something that namespacing could take care of. For instance, we could have a field for some metadata for branch, and then that could segment your cache based on branch. So yeah, high reliability mode will prevent the transactions from being different. But yes, you're right. It won't completely solve the thing. So that's what namespacing is for, to help further segment the cache along whatever kind of parameters you want.
Great, that sounds ideal. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay. No more questions. Thank you guys for coming.